Alright guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to show you how to remove your brake discs on a 07 Ford Ranger, a two-wheel drive. I'm just doing this so I can grease up my bearings. I bought some Lucas Red N Tacky #2. This shit's really good. I highly recommend it. So as you can see, I've already got the wheel off. It's sitting to the side right now, and grease needs to be removed, or cleaned and replaced with some new stuff. So got my cotter pin here I need to take out, and I know these aren't the best, but these are the only kind of pliers I have laying around. There you go. And I highly recommend getting a roll of shop towels. And what I like to do, and I'm doing this, is get 2 towels, which I'll show you these in a second, and then lay it out and take everything off in progressing order, and then but also cleaning all the parts I take off. So then when you go to put them back, you know to start from here and then end here. That way you're not matching any parts, anything else like that. And so for cleaning purposes, I've got some brake parts cleaner, which always does the trick. So now I believe this is called a castle nut. Correct me if I'm wrong in on the comments. Just like that. And so essentially your cotter pin just sits in between these notches here, and there's a cotter pin hole, of course, in your spindle to make sure that this nut doesn't move around, because it's barely on there. So which we'll get to the torque specs on this once we reinstall it. So there's your spindle nut. Following that, I need to get another towel. So I'm going to get my parts dirty, my tools. Next you have this plate covering your first outer bearing. And just to clarify, I did have the dust cap on. I just took that off before I started recording. So get the damn thing off. There you go. Just like that. So again, I'm cleaning all these parts. I'm just taking them out right now to show you guys. And so following that, you guys have your inner bearing sitting right there. And so I'm going to stop right there as far as taking things off of the spindle, because we got to take the brakes off to slide the rotor out so we can get to this bearing and then the inner bearing down deep in there. So we'll start taking that apart. Alright, so I hope you guys can see the socket right here, but anyway, this is the bolt holding everything together, the caliper and the pads onto the brake assembly. And brake, actually I think I'm tightening. Yep. Whoops. So now it's just, I don't know if they're doing it intentionally or if they're just being lazy, but as some of you know, the frequent viewers, oh, and by the way, this is a 14mm bolt, or socket, I'm sorry. But anyway, those of you who watch my channel frequently know that I bought this truck from Galpin Honda, and it's just, every bolt, every lug nut. When I first got the truck, when I first started doing all my preventative maintenance and update maintenance, it's just every bolt that I ran into was just severely over tightened. And on my tire rotation video, I mentioned it about how I took a reducer on my breaker bar because I don't have any 1-inch sockets, or I'm sorry, 1/2-inch sockets. And when I tried to break the lug nuts free, it actually sheared the reducer off. And so it took both my dad and I, him stepping on it and me pulling on a star wrench just to break the lug nuts free on my wheels. And the same thing with my oil pan and my oil drain bolt. Had to get some serious leverage. I mean, they just over tightened everything. And so that's probably my biggest complaint with Galpin Honda. But anyway, enough about my rambling. So you can see the entire caliper's coming off. And so I like to hang it up here so that there's so you can get a view of it. I like to hang it up there on top of my A-arm so that I don't have any tension on the brake lines. So we'll just remove the pads, and in order they came off. So back in the back, front in the rear, front in the front. And then you've got your 2 bolts right here on the spindle that need to come off to take off the entire housing. And we'll get cracking on those. I think these are different size. Yep. So that's 15 millimeters right there. So 1 mil bigger. And for the inner spindle nut, you're probably going to want to get an extension. But yeah, if anybody, I'm also coming up probably this weekend. Today's Wednesday. I'm going to be doing a rear brake drum replacement video because I'm getting pretty bad vibrations out of the back. I tried adjusting it, but it just didn't stay aligned. So, all right. Here it is. Let's go with those. All right. So now we get to take the rotor off. Sorry, I'm filming on my GoPro, and so I'm using my smartphone to line the shot up right so you guys can see. And there's your first bearing, which I just dropped on the floor. And so that's your first small, that's the thing I always forget about, is how small these bearings are. But again, going down the line on my towel here, and this is a look at the back side of the bearing, or the front rotor, I should say, sorry. And so here's a look in here, and I actually have a little seal here I need to pop off with my screwdriver to get the bearing out, but you can still see this grease isn't that old. You can still see some of the red, but I really like to, I know there's no harm in doing service intervals earlier than called for. I'd much rather do earlier than later. So, because the age-old saying, you take care of your vehicle, it'll take care of you, and I'm a pretty firm believer of that statement. So I'm going to clean, get all the excess grease off that. And hopefully you guys won't be seeing these spindles anytime soon, because hopefully within the next few months I'm ordering some new 4-inch lift spindles from MaxTrack for the suspension lift I want to put on this. And actually now would be a good time to break out the O'Reilly parts cleaner. And clean this up. That's all I can say with dealing with grease, is you're going to go through a lot of towels. I mean, a lot of them. Or rags, if you prefer rags. But this entire roll was $2 at O'Reilly, so I'm not real worried about it. But I figure for any of you who watch my channel or have the same truck or pretty close to it as far as the year and model go, or sub-model I should say, you know, I'd like be awesome if you guys could ask some questions. I'd love to, you know, because I love getting messages and comments on my videos here on YouTube. You know, being able to, because yeah, I'm a firm believer that here on YouTube we're basically a big family, and so I always like getting messages or emails on my phone saying that someone has subscribed to me or someone's commented on my video, and that, you know, every once in a while I get an email saying that this video has helped them out and thanks for the walkthrough. And so I mean, that's why I shoot these videos, and that is just fun. So yeah, so I'm gonna pause the camera real quick. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll alright, so we're back, and here's the outer plate that goes on, and then here's the bigger bearing, just like so, still spinning, which is nice, followed by globs and globs and globs of grease. So let me wipe my hands real quick, and I'll show you everything that we've pulled off the truck so far. And that's everything so far, first to last, and then in between. But that's all the grease. I might need to pull the light out soon since it's getting darkish. But yep, so we're gonna clean all this out, scoop out all the grease, and we'll put some. We'll clean all the parts, put some new grease in the bearings, and we'll be on our way. So I'm going to get another towel. And yummy. Rags, rags, rags. Story of the life with this. Yeah, anyway, like I was saying earlier, you know, if you guys have any questions about the truck, whether, you know, future plans, how it's running, problems with it, even though there hasn't really been hardly any, as most people can testify with these trucks, because they're tough little trucks. But I'm also thinking about starting a new channel. I may do a separate video on discussing it, but basically a weekly vlog of what I do from day to day regarding school. And so a future one, you guys may see my cousin because she's coming out to visit from Florida. But yep, so now that we've got the inside pretty much, I'm going to spray it with brake clean obviously here in a little bit, and then we'll hit the parts here. Move those. Oops, sorry. All right. Now, not really. I don't usually worry about spraying the insides really good because the new grease is going to push all the junk out. So I just like to get around the edges and everything else. So stuff like this, yeah, the plate here, I'm definitely gonna clean that up nice. I'll hit that with some brake clean. And a tip: don't use that stuff in a closed off area, because just sitting here, fumes are pretty potent. So there you go. There's a cleaned off little bearing plate. Just like that. So I'm gonna get a fresh towel to put all the clean parts on, so I'm not chasing the grease, so to speak. Over here. So we'll pick this up when I get all the parts cleaned off. All right, all the parts are cleaned, laying right there, nice and pretty, shiny. And so I got my Red N Tacky number 2 out and open, and that is some beautiful grease, is it not? So pretty cool little technique to do this. You just want to do it with this hand. So you get a glob of grease, put it right there in the palm of your hand, grab your bearing, and you're just gonna, little at a time, basically, if you guys can see that, you're just gonna press it through the bearing, and you're gonna keep going until it comes up out of this side and pushes out all the old crap, which I'll get a shot of that hopefully in here as it comes through. It's just such a small bearing. And with grease, you can never have too much. So, alright, see how it's coming out now? And just keep going. There you go. And you're going to do this around the entire bearing. All the way until it's just oozing out of here with new grease. Alright. And that's all the grease that came out of there. You can see it's kind of a mixture of the two. And then we have a bunch of grease in here, which we'll just push out with our finger and then put back in our hand. Put it there, back in my hand. So just keep working our way around, and so we'll pick this up when I get to the next bearing. Alright, so got the outer bearing all nice and greased up. All the old grease is out of there, and so time to move on to the big one. And of course, as I'm sure you understand, this is going to take a lot more time and grease, so yep, keep packing. So, alright, both the bearings are greased up, and now we're going to grease up the spindle here. And I just like to coat it up nice and good. And I mean, I love this grease. It's got a good temperature break point or melt point, whatever you want to call it. And it's just it's nice, and because I've used the generic brand from like O'Reilly before, and it's just it feels a lot thicker. The generic brand does. This is like, I absolutely love Lucas oil products. This, again, as those of you who watch my channel all the time, you know, I love their fuel and oil additive products. You know, they're fantastic, and it's you know, it's not the cheapest stuff in the world, but it's also not the most expensive. So there's a way to look at it, right? Yeah. So now we begin the reassembling process. Again, sorry, I'm using my phone to see, because that's the problem with the GoPros, is if you don't have the app, you can't really see where you're filming. So, okay. So we've got our brake disc here. So I'm going to drop the freshly greased bearing with some grease on the front here. I'm also going to, another thing I like to do with bearings, once I grease them, is I like to jam like 2 or 3 fingers in here and then spin it to make sure A, it's still working, and B, just to really work that grease in there. Just like so. So I know you're supposed to tap it in, but I have a method afterwards that seals the bearings in really well. And so we've got our back plate now to seal it. And clean my hands off again. There we go. Alright, so now go back to the spindle. I'm actually going to clean off I got a little bit of grease on the back. I'm going to clean that brake disc off. There we go. Try not to get any leaves in there. That's always not good. And I figure while I have you guys here, if you're watching this, so as I'll just stop saying as you know, but you know, right now I'm a automotive technology major in school right now, and you know, I absolutely love those classes. You know, I mean, every day we're learning something, and it's so much fun. You know, I mean, we're still in kind of the infancy stages right now, but it's so much fun. And they treat it's still through the college, Oxnard College out in California here, but it's treated completely different than a typical course. You know, in a typical course, for instance, anatomy, because I'm taking that as a prerequisite. That's the outer bearing there I just pushed in. You know, in that class, you would want typically an A. You know, that's what everybody strives for. They all want an A. But in this class, in my automotive technology class, you know, the goal isn't to get an A. The goal is to be able to A, absorb what you've learned and apply what you've learned. And so in attendance, your work ethic, as far as homework and lab work, it's all treated like your actual job. So it sets you up for the job market. Granted, I'm trying to go military, but you know, it's it's such a great program, and I know that there's so many more out there like it. And if you guys are interested, I'll put a link to it down below. But there's a video from the guy Mike Rowe who did Dirty Jobs. He's actually started a foundation. This by the way, this indented right here, that goes this way into the bearing. You know, like I was saying, he's actually started his own foundation, and it's called Mike Rowe Works. Not Mike Small Works, but Mike Rowe, his name, and then Works. And it's really interesting. He's, you know, he looked at the current education system as far as college goes, and how the price has gone up 500% from what it was back in the 80s, which is exponential. You know, healthcare is 250 from the 80s, and he's, you know, he goes, I'm surprised it's not on, you know, headline news every day. And so he goes, he's talking about work ethic and how the only types of scholarships we have right now reward talent, need-based, academic, and sports scholarships. And he said, who rewards work ethic? Which I thought was really interesting. And so he, this new foundation of his, it basically rewards work ethic. And I mean, I'm not on it, but if you're interested, I would definitely say check that out, because it's pretty cool. I'm trying to get this bolt on here without cross-threading it. There it goes. So a method that I've seen and that I use, I picked it up off the Ranger Station forums, to tighten this thing down to like 50 foot-pounds to set the bearings, and then back it off, and then do 22 to 25 inch-pounds, which translates to 1.8 foot-pounds, since I don't have an inch-pounds torque wrench. So I'm gonna go grab my torque wrench real quick and the appropriate sockets for this, and we'll set the bearings and put everything back together. Alright, so I got the torque wrench out right now. My previous statement was wrong. I had to look it up again. It's 18 foot-pounds to seal the bearings that I do. That's the technique I use. And then back it off, and then, you know, do the 22 to 25 inch-pounds. Alright, there it is. So now that's all sealed, and so as you can see, it's pretty damn stiff, but it moves, but we don't want to keep it like that. So now, I just told myself I wasn't going to touch that grease again, but I lied. Alright, so now we're going to tighten it to 1.8 pounds. This is if you have a foot-pounds torque wrench, since I don't have an inch-pounds. So it's 22 that I do for inch-pounds, which equates to 1.8. So right there, inch-pounds, or foot-pounds for me. Slippery now. Alright, here she is. So if we give her a spin, she's got a nice, easy spin. And so now we need to put the castle nut on, followed by the cotter pin. Alright, so we've got our crown nut, castle nut, whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't really matter how you put this on. You just want to make sure that the slots line up with the the hole for your cotter pin here. If I can pick the damn thing up, there we go. And I'll try and, I know the light's getting low, but trying to get the damn thing in there. Because without this, you'll be having a bad day. And you may need to bend it a little bit like I usually have to. Get my vice grips out to make it smaller. And try coming up from the bottom. Oh. Alright, we'll pick this up when I get the cotter pin back in, because I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me sit here and struggle. Alright, cotter pin's back in, thank God, finally. It took forever. And here's the dust cap. Which we'll put that on later, but I'm going to focus on the brakes now. So it's just the exact opposite, because my battery's going to die soon, of taking them off, as I'm sure you guys know. So thanks for watching as always, and questions, comments, put them down below. Feeling generous, hit that like button, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, guys.